I spent years being told, again and again, that I didn't belong at family gatherings. So, when I finally got married, I left them off the guest list. That's when they completely lost it and suddenly wanted to fix everything. But one phone call shut it all down for good. My name is Alex. I'm 32. And if you had told me 6 years ago that my wedding would turn into the quietest, most satisfying revenge of my life, I would have laughed straight in your face. I've never been someone who held onto grudges. I was always the peacemaker, the one trying to smooth things over, even when it cost me. But when your own family spends your entire life making it clear you're unwanted, something shifts inside you. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's slow and numb, like a door closing somewhere deep in your chest. One day it locks, and you don't even notice when you stop trying to open it. Growing up, I was the odd one out. Not a rebel, not a screw-up, just different. While my siblings, Max and Jane, were all about sports, parties, and being popular, I was the kid buried in books, playing chess, and bringing up space or history at the dinner table. You'd think that would earn me some jokes, maybe a little teasing. In my family, it turned into something meaner. They called it joking, said things like, "You wouldn't like it anyway," but it was really just exclusion with a smile. At first, it was subtle. Birthday parties where my invitation somehow disappeared. Family trips where no one bothered to tell me. I trained myself not to take it personally, or at least pretended I didn't. Then the wedding started. Jane's came first. When I was 23, about a week before the big day, she sat me down with this stiff smile glued to her face and said, "Alex, I just think it's better if you don't come. It's going to be a very normal wedding." She said it like that explained everything, like it just wasn't my kind of thing. I remember staring at her, blinking, honestly wondering if I was imagining the whole conversation. She hugged me afterward, like she'd done me a favor, and promised to send photos. I stayed home. I didn't argue. I didn't push back. I didn't even cry. But I couldn't eat for days because of the lump stuck in my throat. When I brought it up, my mom and my dad waved it off like it was nothing. "She's the bride." My dad said, eyes still on his newspaper. "She gets to decide." My mom chimed in with, "Besides, you would have hated it there. All those people you don't even know." Like I wasn't family, like I hadn't grown up with half the people she invited. A few years later, Max got married. This time, they didn't even pretend. I found out through Facebook. A grainy photo popped up on my feed. My entire family dressed up, laughing around a table. The caption read something smug like, "Family is everything." I stared at my phone as my stomach twisted. No call, no text, nothing. Just silence, followed by a public reminder that I wasn't included. You'd think that would have been enough, that I would have walked away for good. But hope is stubborn. It sticks around longer than it should. I kept reaching out. Holidays, birthdays, random check-ins. Sometimes they replied. Sometimes they didn't. When they did, it felt forced, polite on the surface, uninterested underneath. They'd ask about my job without listening, or comment on how quiet my life was, like that was something to be ashamed of. Every visit felt like stepping into a role I was never meant to play, like I was background noise in my own family. The breaking point wasn't even dramatic. It was a random Sunday, about a year before my wedding. I drove an hour to Max's housewarming party, gift card in hand, wearing a smile that said I was still trying, even though I shouldn't have been. I rang the doorbell 3 times before he finally opened it. He looked genuinely shocked to see me. Hey, he said, scratching the back of his neck. I thought, my mom said you probably wouldn't come. "I'm here," I said, forcing a smile. "Brought you something." He took the gift card like it might explode. Inside, the place was packed. Music playing, people laughing, the smell of barbecue everywhere. I recognized faces I'd known my whole life, but none of them seemed to recognize me. Or maybe they just didn't care. I tried to mingle, tried to talk. It felt like shouting into empty space. People smiled politely, then turned right back to the conversations that mattered to them. I was a stranger at my own family's party. Then came the moment that sealed it. Later that night, someone, pretty sure it was Jane, drunk and slurring, laughed loudly across the yard and said, "Well, at least Alex didn't ruin anything today. Must be a new record." Everyone laughed. I stood there holding a cheap plastic cup, gripping it so hard it cracked. No one defended me. No one even looked uncomfortable. It was just another joke. Another reminder that to them, I was a burden. A punchline. That was it for me. I didn't yell. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't make a scene. I just left, slipped out through the side gate while they kept laughing, drove home in complete silence, and deleted the family group chat from my phone. About a year later, everything changed. I met Lee. She was the opposite of everything I'd grown up with. Warm, thoughtful, genuinely interested in who I was. She loved my random facts, my quiet personality, even my terrible puns. For the first time in my life, I felt truly seen. When I proposed, she said yes with tears in her eyes. We started planning the wedding right away. We both wanted something small, close friends, chosen family, people who actually showed up for us. One night, sitting on the floor with our guest list spread out, Lee paused. "What about your family?" she asked softly. "Do you want to invite them?" I really thought about it, about offering an olive branch, about how weddings are supposed to bring people together. Then I remembered Jane's smile when she told me not to come. The Facebook post, the jokes, years of feeling invisible. "No," I said. Finally, my voice didn't shake. "I don't." Lee smiled and kissed my forehead. "Good. I want this day to be about love, not obligation." The news got around anyway. Small towns always talk. And about a week after we sent out the invites, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Heard you're getting married. When are you sending our invites?" That was it. No congratulations. No warmth. Just entitlement. Like their presence was guaranteed. No matter how they'd treated me for years. I stared at the text for a long time before finally typing back, "There's no invitation." That's all I said. And within minutes, everything exploded. The group chats lit up instantly. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages flooded in from my mom, my dad, Max, Jane. Anger, guilt trips, accusations, even a few desperate attempts to rewrite history, acting like we'd always been this close. Loving family who couldn't imagine missing my wedding. Jane took it a step further and posted a vague, passive-aggressive status on Facebook. "Funny how some people forget where they come from. Hope they enjoy their little party without real family." I didn't reply. I didn't defend myself. I didn't even read most of it. Instead, Lee and I poured all of that energy into building the day we actually wanted. Friends who had celebrated our engagement like it was their own. Coworkers who had seen me at my lowest and helped pull me back up. Neighbors who treated me like family when my blood never did. Those were the people we wanted beside us when we promised our lives to each other. And when the day finally arrived, when I stood at the altar and watched Lee walk toward me with the brightest, happiest smile I'd ever seen, something clicked. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel unwanted. I felt chosen. But that wasn't even the best part. The real surprise came later, right after the ceremony, when someone tugged me aside with a grin. It was my old neighbor, Mr. Baker. He was in his 70s, skinny as a rail, and somehow had more energy than people half his age. He leaned in, barely holding back a laugh. "Alex, you're gonna want to see this." Curious, I followed him to a small group clustered around a phone. The moment they noticed me, their faces lit up with barely contained excitement. "Look what's blowing up on Facebook," one of them said, turning the screen toward me. There it was, in real time. A full-blown public meltdown from Jane, Max, and, to top it off, my own mother. Post after post accusing me of being selfish. Lectures about forgiveness. Long rants about how blood is blood and how you should never turn your back on family, no matter what. It was messy, loud, and honestly, kind of amazing. Jane's post was the most dramatic. I can't believe my own brother would exclude us from his wedding after everything our family has done for him. Absolutely disgusting behavior. Some people don't understand what family means. Someone commented underneath, "Didn't you leave him out of your wedding?" No reply. Just a bunch of defensive likes and a few petty comments from her friends trying to back her up. Max's post was even uglier. Yes, Alex forgot who helped raise him. Maybe he'll remember when he's all alone someday. Another commenter shot back, "You didn't invite him to yours." Right. Sounds like karma. My mom's was the saddest of all. A blurry old photo from years ago. Some random family gathering, with a passive-aggressive caption. "Some people forget who loved them first. Loved me." I almost laughed. When had they ever actually loved me? I could feel my friends watching me, waiting for some kind of reaction. Anger, hurt, tears, but I just shook my head and smiled, standing there with Lee's hand slipping into mine. Our wedding party laughing behind us. It finally hit me. I didn't owe them anything. I wasn't that lonely kid anymore, begging for a spot at their table. I had built my own table, my own life, my own family. And they weren't invited. The reception felt like a dream after that. We'd rented a small vineyard just outside town. The weather was perfect. One of those once-in-a-lifetime sunsets, gold and pink spilling across the sky like it was painted just for us. Lee and I danced under string lights while our friends cheered, toasted, and sang way too loud. The cake leaned a little to one side. The playlist skipped. Someone spilled a drink all over the dance floor. It was perfect, but the drama wasn't done. Not even close. The next morning, my phone vibrated so hard it fell off the nightstand. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails, texts. For a split second, I wondered if they'd finally cooled off. Maybe they wanted to apologize. Maybe they were ready to make things right. That hope vanished the second I listened to the first voicemail. My mom's voice was tight and cold. "Alex, you need to call me back immediately. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're going to regret cutting off your family. You'll see. No one will ever love you like we do." Then Jane, "Congrats on your sad little party. Hope it was worth it, traitor." Max's came last. Just a long sigh, followed by, "You'll come crawling back one day." You always do. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to them one by one, while Lee slept peacefully beside me. Every angry word, every guilt trip, every threat just slid right off. It didn't hurt anymore. It didn't even sting. It just sounded desperate. I could have replied, could have sent a long message laying everything out, could have finally said all the things I'd swallowed for years. Instead, I did the one thing they hated most. I ignored them. I blocked every number, deleted every message, closed the door for good this time. Later that afternoon, Lee and I sat on the back porch of our rental cabin, watching the sun dip behind the hills. We passed a bottle of cheap champagne back and forth. She rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "Any regrets?" I thought about it for a moment. "Nope," I said, squeezing her hand. "None, because in the end, they were right about one thing. Family is everything. You just have to choose the right one." And I had. It didn't take long for the silence to start eating at them. For the first few days after the wedding, it was nothing but noise. Angry voicemails, furious Facebook posts, passive-aggressive texts sent at all hours of the night. I ignored all of it and focused on slipping into newlywed life with Lee instead. We slept in, we wandered through small towns holding hands. We laughed about dumb little things, like how I kept losing the hotel key and how she never finished a cup of coffee before it went cold. It was calm. It was safe. It was exactly the kind of peace I'd spent years fighting for. Apparently, that kind of peace drove my family crazy, especially when they weren't the ones controlling it. About a week later, the tone shifted. My mom's messages stopped sounding furious and started sounding desperate. "Family should stick together. Call me. We're still your parents. We deserve to be part of your life. Think about how hurt we are, Alex, after everything we did for you. Still no apology." Still no accountability. Just this warped version of reality where I was the bad guy for finally walking away. When that didn't work, they escalated. I got an email from my dad. An actual email, which would have been funny if it weren't so unsettling, because the man barely knew how to unlock his phone. It was short, blunt, and painfully clear. We're still your legal family. Don't think you can erase that. No love, no regret. Just a reminder that, to them, family wasn't about care or respect. It was about ownership. At first, Lee and I joked about it. We even made bingo cards predicting their next guilt trip. We're your real family. You're being selfish. You'll regret this someday. It was almost entertaining how predictable it all was. Right up until they showed up. It was a Wednesday morning. I was working remotely from the living room. Lee was in the kitchen, humming along to some cheesy 90s playlist, when there was a knock at the door. Not a normal knock. Loud, rapid, impatient. Lee froze, spatula hovering in midair. "Are you expecting someone?" she asked. I slowly shook my head as a sick feeling settled in my stomach. I walked over and checked the peephole. There they were. My mom, my dad, Jane, Max, all crammed onto our tiny porch like some grim family portrait. My mom was holding a casserole dish like a prop, wearing that stiff, unsettling smile. My dad stood beside her, rigid and scowling. Jane hid behind sunglasses. Max looked bored, scrolling through his phone. I didn't open the door. I cracked the window, just enough to hear them. "Hi, sweetheart," my mom called, her voice overly bright. "We thought we'd stop by and talk. You know, as a family." Her tone was syrupy, the same fake sweetness she always used when she was furious underneath. "No thanks," I said evenly. "We're busy." There was a brief silence. "Alex," my dad snapped, stepping closer. "Enough of this. We're not leaving until you come out here and face your family." Lee appeared behind me, her hand slipping into mine, her face pale. "They're not going to leave, are they?" she whispered. "No," I said quietly. "They're not. Outside." My mom's smile finally cracked. She set the casserole down hard on the porch railing and crossed her arms. "This isn't you, Alex," she said. "You're not this cold, this cruel." Her voice wavered just enough to make it sound like she was the victim, like years of exclusion and ridicule had never happened. "You're letting her poison you against us," Jane added, lowering her sunglasses just enough to glare at Lee. That did it. I opened the window wider and met Jane's stare. "Nobody poisoned me," I said calmly. "You did that yourselves." Her smile vanished. Max finally looked up from his phone, frowning. "Seriously, Alex, grow up. You're throwing away your real family over some hurt feelings." Lee's grip tightened around my hand. She was trembling, not from fear, but from anger. I took a slow breath and kept my voice steady. "You didn't want me at your weddings. You didn't want me at holidays. You didn't want me around when it actually mattered. So, you don't get to barge into my life now that it's convenient for you. You made your choice a long time ago. Now I've made mine. You'll regret this." My mom hissed. The fake tears were gone, replaced by raw anger. "You'll regret cutting us out when you have nobody left." I smiled, a real smile. "I already have everything I need." Then I closed the window. I didn't slam it. I didn't shout. I didn't make a scene. I just shut them out. For a second, everything outside went quiet. Then the pounding started, fists slamming against the door, angry shouting. Lee pulled me toward the kitchen. "Should we call the police?" she asked. I was about to answer when we heard it, a sharp crack. Then another. They weren't just yelling anymore. They were trying to force their way in. I didn't panic. Not because I wasn't scared. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. But because something inside me had finally changed. The part of me that froze. That begged. That hoped they'd someday be different. It was gone. I looked at Lee, her knuckles white as she clutched my hand, and realized this wasn't about fear anymore. It was about making sure they never got the chance to hurt us again. "Call the police," I said quietly. Lee didn't hesitate. She grabbed her phone and crouched behind the kitchen counter. I stayed where I was, planted between her and the door, as the pounding grew louder and more frantic. "We're not leaving without you, Alex," my dad yelled from outside, his voice thick with rage. "You're going to talk to us." Another hard slam. The door shook in its frame. I could hear my mom shrieking about ungrateful little traitors, Jane swearing under her breath, and Max doing what he always did, being the loudest one in the room. He shouted that I'd regret this, that nobody else would ever put up with me once Lee realized what a loser I supposedly was. I didn't answer. I didn't react. I just stood there, breathing slow and steady, waiting. Then I heard it. The most beautiful sound I could imagine. Sirens. The pounding stopped almost instantly. I moved to the window and watched my mom grab the casserole dish off the porch like it was going to save her dignity. My dad snapped at Max and Jane to act normal. They scattered, suddenly pretending they were just standing around chatting, like they hadn't been trying to break down my door less than a minute earlier. The police cruiser pulled up fast, gravel crunching under the tires. Two officers stepped out, one man and one woman, both wearing that exhausted look of people who had clearly seen this kind of suburban meltdown before. I opened the door carefully and stepped outside, hands visible. "Morning, officers," I said calmly. "Thanks for coming." The female officer nodded. "We got a call about a disturbance. Can you tell us what's going on?" Before I could speak, my mom rushed forward, still clutching the casserole dish like a shield. "This is our son," she cried, voice trembling with fake tears. "We're just trying to talk to him. He's been brainwashed by her." She jabbed a finger toward the house, where Lee was peeking out from behind the curtain. "Now he thinks he can just cut off his family." The officer barely blinked. "So, you were trying to force entry into the home?" "No," my mom gasped. "We were just..." He wouldn't open the door, and we needed to talk. We had to. My dad stepped up, looming like he always did when he thought intimidation would work. "We have a right to see him. He's our son." The male officer sighed and pulled out a small notebook. "Sir, that's not how this works. He's an adult. You have no legal right to enter his home without permission. If you continue to harass or threaten him, he can press charges." The color drained from my mom's face. Jane muttered something under her breath. Max rolled his eyes like he was the one being inconvenienced. I took a deep breath and said clearly, "I want to press charges for trespassing and attempted forced entry, and I want a restraining order." The porch went dead silent. I won't lie and say it never hurt. There were moments when I missed the idea of family. Miss what things could have been if they'd been different people. Holidays were the hardest at first, watching other families laugh together, sharing memories I never had. It left a hollow ache that took time to fill. But it did fill, slowly, with better people, real friends, chosen family, people who didn't love me out of obligation, but because they genuinely wanted to, people who saw me and stayed. Lee's parents welcomed me like a second son without hesitation. My coworkers threw us a surprise post-honeymoon party with a cake that read, "Welcome to your real family." Neighbors dropped off casseroles and handwritten cards when they heard about the restraining order. Not out of pity, out of respect. Piece by piece, the life I'd always wanted came together. Not the life they tried to force on me. Not the life they abandoned me in. My life. About 6 months after the wedding, Lee and I hosted a small barbecue. Just close friends, good food, easy laughter. At one point, I stepped back with a beer in my hand and just watched. I watched my wife laugh with her best friend over burnt burgers. I watched the neighbor kids race through the yard with water guns. I watched a group of people who loved me exactly as I was, and it hit me. They hadn't just missed my wedding. They had missed everything after it. Every milestone, every celebration, every quiet, beautiful, ordinary day. All because they refused to love me the way I deserved. For the first time in my life, that realization didn't make me sad. It made me feel free. Completely, finally, free. And I knew I'd never give that up again. Not for anything, not for anyone. Especially not for people who only ever saw me as something they were entitled to control. As the sun dipped low and fireflies flickered in the yard, Lee slipped her hand into mine and rested her head on my shoulder. We made a good life, she whispered. I smiled, kissed the top of her head, and whispered back, yeah, we really did. My mom's mouth fell open. My dad's face turned a deep, angry red. Jane's sunglasses slid down her nose. Max actually stepped back, like he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. You don't mean that? My mom stammered. Alex, we're family. That word snapped something clean inside me. Not anger, not sadness, just finality. I looked her straight in the eyes. No, we're not. Not anymore. After that, the officers separated us. They took statements, asked questions. Lee came out and held my hand the entire time, steady and solid. My family cycled through tactics like clockwork. My mom sobbed about losing her baby. My dad muttered about ungrateful brats. Jane went on a rant about how only broken people turn their backs on family. Max just sneered like the whole thing was beneath him. The officers didn't budge. They issued a formal warning on the spot and made it very clear that if any of them showed up again, even once, they'd be arrested. I filed the restraining order paperwork that same afternoon, and just like that, with a few signatures and some hard lines drawn, the door closed for good. The days after were strangely quiet. Too quiet. No angry calls. No guilt-filled messages. No dramatic Facebook posts. It was like they finally understood they had lost whatever control they thought they still had. And for the first time, I knew without a doubt that no one could ever take it away from me.